This week in IT SPARC Cast, UniFi dials it up to 9.5. Your satellite provider might be leaking your data, and hardware vendors are saying Daijian to China. That's goodbye. Greetings and welcome to IT SPARC Cast. I'm your host, John Barger.
And I'm your host, Lou Schmidt. Let's go see what's going on out there, huh?
It's Monday, October 20th. IT SPARC Cast News Bytes is a digest of the IT news over the last week with insights, opinions, and a little sarcasm from two experts, each with over 20 years experience working in IT or for IT vendors. And now, the News Bytes. All right, Lou, this is exciting news as you and I are both UniFi users. UniFi's announced UniFi Network 9.5, and it is available as we speak. So you can go ahead and download it if it hasn't automatically happened. And it's got some nice quality of life features is what I would call it, that I think will make the management that much easier. So let's get right into it. So the first one is called Channel AI, and this is a visual representation of all the different APs around you, what channels they're on, what's open, and really it's one of the better visuals I've seen for helping you choose channels, and then it will then step up its automatic channel selection. I got into an argument once with a certified wireless instructor, and he basically said all of the automatic channel selection tools suck. And we actually worked for a vendor that actually had a pretty good one. And we actually then explained it to him and showed it to him, and he actually then agreed. But in general, most of these wireless tools, wireless access points in the management tools really suck at figuring out what channel is open and how to move to it automatically when interference starts coming in, co-channel interference, and so forth. So to have this AI system, I'm really excited to try it out. I've got a lot of noise around me. So all my neighbors have things broadcasting at different channels. I've got mine set manually pretty well, but it doesn't help if it shifts. Funny story, I bought a drone for my son several years ago. It was this nice, cool TIE Fighter Star Wars drone, and it ran on 2.4 gigahertz. And we turned it on. The thing launched straight in the air and took off south. And we never saw it again. And it was because of all the interference around us from all the different access points. So I'm excited to see what this does. Additional features is they got enhanced multicast and service control. So this is really going to improve the efficiency of multicast handling. And whether you realize it or not, you might actually have multicast running on your network. Things like Bonjour, which is the main protocol for Apple TVs and things like that. There's a lot of different multicast going on that you may or may not be aware of. So this could actually be really helpful for you. It also provides better roaming and device association, and specifically when it comes to Apple devices. And that's something I've actually noticed on occasion, not always, but when I move from room to room and I'm going from access point to access point, sometimes I get a hiccup. If I'm streaming something at the time, or if I'm on a call, I'll get a quick cutout. So I'm going to be testing that one as well, because I think that one would be really, really useful. And then lastly, better reliability on wired with figuring out port anomalies. And again, this is something I think that you had asked about, saying it's something we could do. It was either in a conversation we were having or in a previous cast.
Yeah, we were actually looking about SNMP to do that, to look at port utilization, port flap, and transmit and receive errors.
Yeah.
And then they come in and they do this, which, can I make a comment overall on what I'm seeing here?
Absolutely.
Much more enterprise ready.
100%. And that's exactly where they're
definitely
heading.
Moving up the stack. I would say the biggest bang for the buck you're going to get out of this particular update is that channel AI.
Yeah.
When John and I were working for this vendor, I had such a congested RF environment that they would actually go into my instance of the cloud management system during training to show how it handled. I had something like 30 or 40 APs around me.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous.
That was when you were in the Valley.
That was when I was in the Valley. Now I have like 3.
Exactly.
So,
for those of you who don't know,
now.
Lou's now a hermit living on top of a mountain with no neighbors. So very few.
I have neighbors, but I can only see a couple of APs. But I got to tell you, these are the things I went after I did this update last night. I went and I looked back into my system. What you need to do if you're running if you're running this stuff in your house or you're running it in your small business, you need to go wander through your control panels again because a whole bunch of stuff is cropped up in there. The policy engine is getting better and better and better, I've noticed.
Yeah.
And all of these new features are just coming in. And I would feel very comfortable putting this into a mid-sized enterprise at this
I
point.
agree. We've been saying that for a little while now. And again, I had that conversation, I don't know, probably 6 months ago with somebody on X about this, and they were saying that it wasn't. And then we had the comments from a listener a few weeks ago saying that he considered UniFi more of a B player versus an S tier player like Cisco. And you know what? I mean, I think that gap is narrowing and narrowing. And then the question is, do you need some of the other advanced features? And granted, a Cisco or a Meraki or a Extreme or a HPE might have a few features that you're not getting here, but for the cost difference, how important are those features to you when almost everything you need is right here? So
this is 95% of your use cases.
So moving on, why don't you?
Well, speaking of a use case that needs to be re-examined.
Yeah. Satellites, baby.
Satellites. And, there's been a lot of stuff in the news lately. We're talking about how things are heating up between China and the West. I would say the United States, but I would say it's the West in general. And obviously there's state-sponsored hackers out there in other areas as well, including the United States and EU. But this is one you should pay attention to, especially if you have wide-flung infrastructure, especially if it's legacy. And let me show you why. So this came to us from TechCrunch. Researchers at the UC San Diego and University of Maryland used an $800 off-the-shelf satellite receiver and over 3 years pointed it at various geostationary satellites. They discovered large volumes of unencrypted data being transmitted, including private phone calls and text messages, in-flight internet traffic and metadata, communications from critical infrastructure like utilities and oil and gas rigs. Stick that one in your head. We're going to come back to it. Certain military and law enforcement signals and corporate and government backhaul and relay traffic. So they estimate that as many as half of all geosynchronous satellites may be handling sensitive traffic without encryption. They spent about a year notifying affected organizations like T-Mobile, AT&T, Mexico, stuff like that. Some responded quickly and encrypted their transmissions. Others have not yet fixed it.
Right.
Okay. So why does this matter? Let's walk it right back to what I think is the critical piece: critical infrastructure, utilities, oil and gas rigs. There's a lot of power networks, water networks, and energy systems in general, gas and oil, that are being monitored and somewhat controlled via these satellite links. VSAT is normally what this stuff is. I put in a few of these links in my day back when I was working for NASA. They're all over the place. They're very reliable, and nobody ever thinks about them. If you have this stuff in your network, you need to encrypt your traffic at your endpoint now.
Yeah.
And if that traffic isn't encrypted, you probably need to assume that all of your credentials that have passed over that link have been captured by somebody who does not wish you well.
Yeah.
So this is borderline crap, and also you need to look for this. But we'd like to stay ahead of the security threats. If you watch our CVEs the week, a lot of them are about that, including last week's one. And so don't assume that your carrier is going to do anything about this, because they're notorious for not moving on this stuff quickly. I'm not as worried about the military stuff. They are moving off of this fairly fast, right?
Yeah.
Last night, there was a launch of a Trench 1 setup that's being dealt with. But remote cell towers are a thing. So you could be just driving down the road, associate with a remote cell tower that's doing a geosync bop. There you go.
Yeah.
So go look into this.
I just a couple thoughts on this. One is the way we need to look at this is like we keep telling our employees, our users, if you're at a coffee shop, use a VPN. And what we're finding out is that these satellites are effectively the coffee shop Wi-Fi of enterprise. And so you can't trust it. And I think that this has been going on long enough that I'll guarantee you some bad actors already figured this out and is already exploiting it. And it's just a matter of time before we find out that somebody's been, their data's been exfiltrated because of this. And it's going to be a big problem. But the good news is that I don't think that
networking
never exactly, especially remote networking,
zero trust networking,
zero trust. But I think the good news is I think that it would be extraordinarily difficult to insert data into the stream. So you're not going to be being attacked this way, but you will have your data exfiltrated and you lose control of it. And if it is at all critical, then that's bad news. So I'd be really scared. I'm willing
to bet this, if this traffic is unencrypted enough, that I can do an insertion as well.
Yeah.
And, just from my knowledge of RF systems and previous lives.
Well, it's just because of the directionality of being point to point, I think that, it might be a little harder to do, but you might be able to. I mean, when there's a will, there's a way. At some point, somebody will figure it out. Maybe it's a state actor using an airplane or something. Maybe they could do it. But
a drone with a transmitter on it.
A drone with a transmitter might be able to do it as well. So,
because I got to get within the spot of that satellite, but it is definitely doable. Now, one of the things I did look into is the newer satellite services, such as Starlink. There's not a problem. They're encrypting on multiple levels.
Right.
Still, we would tell you zero trust networking.
Zero trust networking. Never trust somebody else's encryption. You never know. They might have a flaw. They might have a backdoor. You never know. So always, that's just true. Somebody can tap fiber as well. So, I mean, I would always, encrypt over any kind of WAN link, whatever it might be. So anyway, that's just my concept.
I mean, MaxSec is out there. Use it.
Yeah.
It can be a pain to manage is the problem. We need to come up with better ways to manage this stuff. Speaking of managing risk, though.
That's right.
John, you had something interesting.
We do. So we're finding that a number of hardware vendors, and specifically we're looking at, the data center, the hyperscale data centers as well. So we're talking about Microsoft, we're talking about Amazon, AWS, we're talking about Google. They're trying to drastically reduce their dependency on China as a point in their supply chain. And there's a few different reasons for this. One is actual risk, but then there's also the geopolitical stuff that's going on, the tariffs and so forth. But let's talk about that right here. So Microsoft has announced that they're going to aim for up to 80% of its Surface notebooks, tablets, data center equipment, and other things to be manufactured outside of China by 2026. So that's coming up quick. They are not moving slow on this. They are moving right now. And they're asking existing suppliers to establish capacity outside of China. And they're planning to move things like their Xbox console production to other Asian locations. So that's pretty much all the hardware that Microsoft does. It's their Surface, Xbox, data center. There's not much else that they make. They're trying to get it all out of there, at least 80% of it. So AWS is reassessing its sourcing. They're looking at printed circuit boards for its AI data centers. So those of you that don't know, Facebook and Amazon are at the leading edge of data center hardware. They have been for a long, long time. They designed their own hardware for the servers and for the switches. So you're not going to find a Cisco switch or an Extreme switch or an HPE switch in most of these hyperscale data centers. You're going to find custom built running, Sonic or some other operating system that they pulled off the shelf, and they are managing it from end to end, meaning from manufacture to end of life on their own. And
however, can I make a point here, my friend? You're probably running these switches because when the hyperscalers design these switches on the higher end, these white boxes normally become the next generation switch. If you're running Broadcom silicon, chances are your switch was a hyperscaler. Cisco, little iffy, but they're not showing up in big data centers anymore.
Or at the very least, things that were learned in the development of those hyperscale switches were then moved over into the reference designs that Broadcom and others use and give out. So,
and this absolutely impacts you.
Yeah. So, I mean, I would think of them as almost like the NASA of the 60s, where they don't have something, they need to build the next amazing thing. They need to build Velcro, and then they and then other people start using it. That's the same kind of thing as this.
Yep.
So again, as we and Google's also pressuring its suppliers to expand their production into to Thailand. So there's a lot of this that's going on. And the reason that we're saying this is that there's a lot of concerns about tariffs and the cost of networking gear or so forth. So this will also help eliminate that. There will still be some level of tariffs, but the tariffs on China are going to be much higher than, say, Thailand or some of the other Asian countries that are playing ball with the United States.
Well, let's be honest. The recent announcement of constriction of strategic materials out of China, that was a very big gauntlet thrown down.
Yeah.
And they've sort of teetered on that edge for a bit. And now they're actually saying they're going to do it. And that's just going to cause a lot of shifting and a lot of problems. So when you talk to your vendor, make sure that if they are producing in China or they have any software in China, they have a plan to get out of there. And you need to ask them. They're not going to volunteer this information. They do not want you to think about this.
Right. And even Apple's doing the same with its iPhone production. It's moving a lot to India and some other things like that. But the thing that we want to do also highlight is there is some complexity here and there's some challenges. That the thing is that this is China's bread and butter. They know how to do this better than anybody when it comes to building massive scale manufacturing. They have cheap labor that they can bring in that live on site.
It's all automated now, buddy.
Yeah, and the conditions aren't necessarily the best. Probably that's underselling it. Conditions for these people working on the assembly lines are so bad in a lot of cases. But China has got this locked down. So moving that level of scale to other countries is going to have hiccups. So be aware of that. That might cause supply chain bottlenecks in the meantime until they get this set up. But again, they're trying to reduce that dependency. So if we have another pandemic, that we're not stuck with one country that's providing things that might be able to provide, maybe they could put pressure on us and say, well, we're going to reduce the outflow. There's all kinds of things that are good about doing this. So it's something to keep an eye on.
I'm sorry. Understand when we talk about this, that there is a conflict right now with China's government.
Yeah.
We are not anti-China.
Correct.
I want to say that because, first of all, it's very fashionable to be that. I've been to China. They're good people.
Yeah.
People are people. I don't want to move all manufacturing out of China. I want them to have a middle class too, but we're definitely seeing a state level confrontation here, and a diversified supply chain is a very good idea for everything.
Yeah. Yeah. And we saw that during the pandemic when things just kind
of,
everybody had delays. We were seeing, 24, 40 month delays on back orders and such. So absolutely. Well, that is going to wrap up this episode. And I want to share a little feedback from one of our listeners. Tom sent in an email to feedback@itsparkcast.com regarding last week's episode. And we were talking about Synology backing off on its allowing of third-party drives in its NASs. And what he wrote was like, this is a huge win for us Synology users. I'm currently in the market for a new NAS, and I had removed Synology from my list. They're now back on the list and actually right at the top. So Lou and I both have multiple Synologies. We're big fans of them. So we agree with this. This is a huge win. We talked about it last week. So go watch that episode if you haven't yet. But the fact that we, going forward with the newest OS, I think it was 7.3 going forward, you will again be allowed to use third-party drives in their 2025 models. That's huge. And we were big fans of that. I'm so excited about it.
Thank you, Synology.
Absolutely. And that is going to cover this episode. We couldn't do this podcast without listeners like Tom and without listeners like you. And we would love to hear what you think. Do you have another topic you want us to cover? Do you have thoughts on what we did cover this week? Do you think that we got something wrong? We're looking for all kinds of feedback, whether it's constructive, positive, whatever it might be. You can send email to feedback@itsparkcast.com. You can hit us up on X @ITSparkcast. Or if you're watching us on YouTube, you can leave a comment down below. We read every single comment, every bit of feedback we get. We respond to almost all of them. And if it's particularly interesting or insightful, we'll bring it to put it out on our broadcast so you get to hear your name and your comment there. With that, make sure you hit like, subscribe, turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. And from the world of enterprise IT, take care.
Thanks for coming by. We hope to see you next week. Thank you.
Pop up for the new firmware. Let's hit install. And there it goes. Update complete already. Nice. Check out these new advanced features. We get channel AI, enhanced multicast and service controls, stronger roaming and device association, and wired reliability with port anomaly. Little things that make a big difference. Super.